Welcome to Daikaiju Network, where we have a healthy obsession with kaiju. I am your co-host Kent, and with me is your other co-host.
Jason, how's it going, everyone?
So once again, we are continuing our discussion of the entire series of Spectreman. This episode, we are covering 31 through 33. Episodes
Yep.
31 through 33 in this, and yeah, we're gonna have a quick synopsis and discussion and close it out, and we'll continue next week.
Yep.
So yeah, Jason, housekeeping.
Yeah, so the usual housekeeping here. If you see a subscribe button down below or above wherever you're watching us, make sure to hit that subscribe button and as well smash the like button. And you can post any comments down below, uh, and do some discussion down there. And you can find Daikaiju Network everywhere, all in one place at our link tree URL right there on your screen /Daikaiju Network. And we're available on video platforms such as YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Facebook, as well as X, formerly known as Twitter. And we're also available on audio platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, as well as TuneIn. And you can find both video and audio versions of our episodes right at our own website there at daikaijunetwork.com.
165, do you update that graphic every time we do a new Spectreman episode on that laptop graphic?
No, that's just a screenshot that I took the last time that I did
So
that.
next time, is that going to show 166?
Nope. No,
So
that's always been 165. So
oh, okay. One of the things that I find funny is that now that Elon has decided to like mash Twitter and rename it X, every time you bring that up on here, I always think of that alien dude from Final Wars where he's at the radio station. And so the radio host is like, "What do you call yourself?" X.
I
Remember that? And then like the girls are
n-
just outside the recording studio and they're like, "Oh, we love X." And he's like, "X."
maybe I'll have to. It's been some time since I've last watched Final Wars.
It's like
So
right after the Exilians begin their attack on
I th-
Earth.
I think I can briefly remember, but I can't remember how exactly it went.
All right. Well, in my opinion, this could be another selection of good Spectreman episodes, and we will get into that. We'll start off with episode 31 titled Protect the Lighthouse.
And mine is called Danger at the Lighthouse.
Yep. That's how that's how translating things works. Jason, you want to give them a brief synopsis of the episode?
Yeah, so apparently we finally get a name for one of the kaiju, and it's the seaweed monster, and his name is Spin Cobra.
Almost sounds like Sphincter.
Yeah, and
Should have been Pumpkinhead.
I kind of wish we would have gotten the name for the crab monster, but as far as I can remember, that we were never given a name to it. So
Call him Grabby.
yeah,
Sounds grabby.
Grabby McGrabbers. We'll just call him that. So
Groper.
I've got nothing to add to that one. So, anyways, episode 31 starts out with both Spin Cobra and Grabby McGrabber ravaging through the village, while Joji and some of the other G Team crew members and civilians are stuck at this lighthouse. And is it the one of the civilians starts, he kind of all of a sudden snaps, tries to escape that lighthouse, and Joji kind of prevents him from doing so. And with this sort of little spiel, um, we stumble upon a pile of Grabby McGrabber's eggs here, and and then you have the military coming in, about to attack the two monsters, and then one of the GT members comes up to one of the guys, military guys, there saying that there's people in the lighthouse, so better not do anything while there's people there. And you have another GT member coming up and finding one of the eggs there, and then lures Grabby McGrabber away, uh, and kind of doing some weird things there, and then all of a sudden you get Joji finding the opportunity to go outside the lighthouse, slicing the Spin Cobra's eyes off there, and then turns into Spectreman battling both of them at the same time, and then kind of have this long battle, and pretty much he ends up destroying both of them while they were in the water with one of his spectrum rays there, and that's pretty much the end of the episode right there.
Yeah, I thought that lighthouse was quite the well-built lighthouse. You got, a normal size lighthouse that you would find just about anywhere where you would find a lighthouse. And you got two enormous monsters beating the heck out of it. And somehow it's able to withstand all that pounding with only minor structural damage. I
Yes,
thought,
all that pounding.
and yet you had an issue with the name Groper. Like, you hypocrite.
I didn't say I had I had an issue with that. I just said no comment.
But I thought, I mean, again, it's the sort of thing. Once again, you would find not just in an episode like this, but in a genre like this, where it's convenience, it's contrivance, whatever you want to call it. It's
Mhm,
just, yeah, here's this little structure which in any other normal circumstance that we see kaiju, attacking man-made structures would fall down within one punch or kick or whatever, and
mhm,
they're pounding away on it. It's just, barely got some cracks on it. So
mhm.
I'm just rolling my eyes. I'm going, okay, I'll go with it.
And then I think we mentioned in the last episode where we were talking about if we would get to see more of this spin cobra. We sort of do, and I think we do get that, um, get more of that monster involved this time around, especially towards the end, there where you have the crab-like monster finally just kind of going in to its shell there, um, which which in itself is pretty funny, and the shell is not all that big to begin with compared to its tail that it had uh, there, and pretty much you don't really see the crab monster after it goes inside of its shell after that, and then you get um, sort of a few minute scuffle between Spectre Man and Spin Cobra there, and it doesn't really do much in a way, especially throughout the two episodes. Spin Cobra doesn't really do a whole lot, except for maybe like in the middle of this episode where it was protecting the crab monster here from military attacks. Oh, and the other thing too is that it's a bit funny, and I'm sure you know about this one is that how do military tanks float in the
I
ocean
have,
there?
I no, it's not floating, but I have in my notes, why would they drive into part of the ocean? These soldiers are not trained very well. What's the purpose, anyways? It's not like your tank gets some like additional XP and become more powerful or something of that sort. It was ridiculous. It was it was one of those unintentionally funny things that you see in this series where you can tell they made sort of a big deal out of it because the camera initially when the first batch of tanks goes in, it like focuses in on them for like a decent moment to where it's like, you see these guys, they're going in
Mhm.
the water, they mean business. And I'm going, I don't think any country, name any country in in the world who is going to use their tanks on whatever near water and say, you get yourself 10 feet in that water and you fire away. I don't think anybody would be doing that. I mean, I would be afraid your tank would get stuck in the mud or something like that. Like, yes, I know the tanks have tread, but they can
Or
handle
at
only
least
so much. And
or at least have a hard time going through sand there.
well, and it's like, I don't get it, but those soldiers must not be the brightest bunch. And what's up with the lighthouse deal floating? Like, I didn't realize it was floating until near
I
the end
didn't
when Spectreman was pushing it back. I'm going, wait a minute, when the hell did this happen? And
yeah,
why is it floating?
I didn't notice that either until it showed it was sort of in its own island there. All it all you ever notice when it comes to that was when, Spin Cobra was bringing it out further to the ocean, and I'm not entirely sure the purpose of it. Maybe it's because simply because the eggs were there and you kind of tell that they sort of knew that the eggs were in this lighthouse there, and but yeah, you didn't get any shot or scene uh, where they separated that part of land from the massive land itself.
But see, here's the thing. And I think they did it for dramatic purposes to where it creates this sort of like, oh, they're in a very small area with two kaiju. There's no way out, like no good way out in theory. But this is where reality, and I understand reality has, left the building when you watch stuff like this to begin with.
Mhm.
But this to me is one of those things where it takes it too far because any island or whatever is actually connected to the ocean floor.
Mhm.
So if this was connected to the mainland, it's going to be connected to the ocean floor as well. And that the only way you could separate it would be to completely destroy it.
Mhm. Or it would just sink. I mean,
Yeah.
with it being
Like,
a massive chunk of rock there with a lighthouse on the surface part, it would just automatically sink into the ocean instead of just floating.
I thought though too the episode, I mean this episode is full of ridiculousness. Like it got really silly when that one random dude found one of the crab monster eggs, decided to make a dramatic scene by breaking through three or four very thin wood barricades in this doorway, and then he's out in this prairie area like trying to smash the egg, and he's talking smack to the monsters. I'm going, this guy deserves to be smashed. I mean, this is so dumb. And it got so ridiculous. And one of Spectre Man's last words to like both kaiju was basically something to the effect of, oh, like my favorite spinach salad and escargot or something like that is what he said.
Roasted escargot, I think.
Yeah. I'm like, "Oh my god, here we go again." Like I mean, on some level that gives this really stupid series a charm, but
Mhm.
it's at the same time it comes out of left field too. It's like,
Mhm.
"Okay, Arnold." Like
Yeah, especially with this, like those rugby type of running and dodging and trying to throw an egg like a football. or something of the sort. It's like
It's a
you
repeat of what this one guy did like 10 or so minutes earlier in the episode that I just got done discussing.
yeah, and then in a couple episodes from now, you have Kara's making baseball reference jokes and everything of the sort, and it's like, do you even do you even know what baseball is? Because you're from outer space, from a different world.
Well, and it's like how many like what was it, 1 or 2 podcast episodes ago we were talking about how Spectreman was using football
Yeah, the
references
previous
as well.
episode, yeah.
It's okay. I have to admit though, despite the goofiness, like I think I said it last week where unless there's something I mean, there's a lot of things where you have to just there's a lot of preposterously stupid things here, but
Mhm.
it's like unless they get to a point where I don't know, Spectre Man, like I I don't know. See, this thing is so crazy. I can't even think of what would be crazier. Like if it really were to somehow become more outlandish, that's when I would be like, oh, like have you seen that State Farm commercial where Jake from State Farm is in a NFL, not NFL, but football players' locker room, and he was saying, "I got one word for you," and he
Oh,
used
yeah, the
4
most recent
words,
one.
and then the one football player guy was like, "No, that's 4 words," and then Jake goes, "Not if you bundle them," and then the guy's like, like his mind is blown. That would be me if this series were to somehow become even crazier than what it is. I'd be like, and
I can see that happening.
we're basically at this point halfway through the series, and I've gotten to the point to where I have finally accepted this thing is just knucking
Being
butts.
being
And
outlandish and
yeah,
goofy and crazy,
like
like, having physics thrown out the window.
I like the whole island thing that we were talking about like a minute ago. I will still criticize it for that, but at the same time, I'm accepting that this is what is going to be a part of this series. I'll still criticize it up to a point for some of this stuff, but I will not really condemn an episode unless it really I like I said, I can't think of anything because this series has already really gone out there. But I've just come to accept this thing as being like the writers were on LSD every time they wrote an episode of this show.
Mhm.
And it's still fun, I have to admit. Like I will say with this batch of episodes we're covering today, there's a lot of action in all 3 of these episodes. You get a lot of kaiju action, just in action in general. So, I'm
Kind of
not gonna
read my
complain too
mind.
much about it.
So why don't we just go into final thoughts if you don't have anything else?
Alright, who do you wanna go first?
Why don't you go?
Alright, let me pull up my notes here. This is one of those episodes where you have to turn more of your brain off to enjoy it than some of the others. The fact the lighthouse could take the beating it could with 2 kaiju is eye-rollingly hilarious, and also how the episode takes its time to make the self-defense force show up as a contrivance to prolong the runtime. I did enjoy the claustrophobic nature of some of the characters being trapped in the lighthouse, and the final battle is entertaining, even though Spectre Man's final words to our 2 kaiju is hilariously bad. It's good enough in a very cheesy way, and I gave it a B plus.
Yeah, with this one, um, yeah, it feels like since the last podcast episode that we've talked about, it seems like at least even though things are still fucking crazy as usual with this show, but I think as far as the writing of each episode, it seems like it's starting to get a little bit better this time around. It seems like they're getting some more competent writers
I
here,
think
even though
they're
that they're getting,
focusing on what people want.
yeah, and I think we're starting to finally get a foot in the ground in this Inspector Man here, even though we're pretty much officially halfway.
It took them half a
Halfway
series
there.
to figure it out.
I mean, you would
It's
think it
neat.
would take I think you would think it would take them maybe 10, 5 or 10 episodes to kinda get, their foot in gear or ass in gear, uh, when it comes to what they actually want to do with this series, but it literally took them half the series to kinda get something, uh, pretty much going right in their what they want. So, yeah, so pretty much starting off from the previous episode on this one, your typical goofiness here, but I'd say more competent writing, still lingering on here. Um, Still pretty good practical effects, although some of the matte screening was a bit off, and uh, when Gravity McGrabber's trying to chase one of the GT members
Stormtroper.
there.
Grover the monster.
um,
New Sesame Street character.
you can call him that if you want. So, um, but yeah, overall, this one's a pretty good episode. So I will give episode 31 a B minus.
All right, so we get King Ghidorah coming into the series now. No, I'm
A uh,
joking.
a discount King Ghidorah.
Yeah, but episode 32, titled "The Three-Headed Dragon Rises Again."
Mine is called Triple Header Threat.
What the hell? Oh my gosh. Okay. Want to give a synopsis of the
Yeah,
triple header threat?
yeah. So this one just starts out. You have kids on a bus there, singing and all that stuff, and then you have a
They're
little
singing
girl with
practice.
her parents and waiting for a car to take the father to his everyday job here. And then you see the same kids and adults that were in this bus at a nearby river, lighting these little lanterns, and then have them go down the stream until you see lightning starting in, and then you have this mysterious object coming out from the ocean or the river and all that, destroying a few things, which is actually sort of Kara's kind of the one responsible for directing the path of this mysterious object, and Dr. Gore was kind of mad at him. It's like, put it in this right direction, you pansy or whatever. So, like, this lightning is sort of kind of a guide for this creature, which I'm not sure if this is the right uh, name for this monster. I I'm not sure if I heard it right, but I think it's called lightning shark. Um,
I don't think I heard that. All I heard was dragon, so I keep calling it dragon.
I don't know. It sounded like I heard lightning shark, so I just called called it that. This three-headed dragon dinosaur, which has been in slumber for 3 million years, which I know dinosaurs have been around haven't been around much longer than that. So, which off no, you get a pretty cool mural of like the whole dinosaur type of backflash with
They did a good
lightning
job of
shark. Yeah,
incorporating this dragon into that mural.
yeah. So besides the point, you get Arthur and Margaret finding these kids and a couple of adults uh, that were in the bus earlier, and uh, rescuing them or giving them a ride back to their original location there. And then you have lightning sharks starting to attack a power plant there, and then you have Joji just riding around the countryside and spotting some explosions at this plant, and with the military coming in to attack it, and obviously things don't work, where military is defeated,
Don't say.
right? And then you have Joji getting closer to see what's going on and noticing a monster is in the area, excuse me, attacking this plant, and all of a sudden, a lightning shark gets near a city, wreaking havoc there, and then this little girl that we've seen at the beginning of the episode with her mother and father, uh, like uh, both the mother and the girl escape from this apartment building, but unfortunately, like all the wreckage and stuff uh, falls on to the mother there, and as well as um, lightning shark spraying this poisonous gas and everything. And Joji comes in, uh, takes the little girl there, and the mother doesn't make it from then on. And then you have Joji taking the girl in this oil tanker truck, luring lightning shark away until they bail out of there. Uh, and then you have Joji turn into Spectreman battling lightning shark and drives it away for um, momentarily there. And you have Arthur and Margaret, along with this military sergeant, finding out that lightning shark is following the path of the oil pipelines, which sucks all this oil and stuff with his like little tail thing. So, like a vacuum cleaner. And you have the military setting the trap for lightning shark, kind of like what we see in King Kong vs. Godzilla there, starting to attack it, and then you see Spectre Man coming in and about to attack lightning shark, and then that's pretty much where the episode ends.
Yeah, I mean, I like the general design of this dragon. However, my biggest complaint with this dragon is how they designed the suit for the suit actor, in that, uh, and how they directed the suit actor too, for this dragon suit, in that it's very obvious the suit actor's hands are the
Hmm.
two heads on either side. And the unfortunate thing is that the suit wearer, um, does a piss poor job of making those heads act like heads, because throughout
Hmm.
this episode and the next, those heads are used more like hands.
Hmm.
And it makes no sense
And
whatsoever in
and you
terms of
have
certain situations.
yeah, and you have the arms kind of sticking out too,
They
but
just they
they're
just flab
just
around.
yeah.
Like if the suit moves, like the hands at best will just flab, but otherwise, yeah, they're just stationary. They're pronated in place.
I mean,
But the
and
head, it just, I don't like how they designed this for the suit actor, and then how they directed the suit actor.
And you had one of the Ultraman monsters. It's kind of like that twin starfish where they had two
I
different
thought of
guys
that too.
operating. I forget the name of the monster exactly, but they had two different guys operating each side of that
Hmm.
starfish bat like monster there with the head, like
Yep.
essentially like in the middle, in between the two operating suit actors in that particular suit. You would think like they would have, well,
Test star.
you would think that you would have two different guys in that particular suit, but I can sort of understand, especially you know you're gonna have one guy operating one side of the suit with the arm, and then as well as a leg, and then vice versa. But then you're gonna have legs in the middle of that, so it's like that would be almost impossible to accomplish, except if you had some kind of monster with 3 legs. Um,
Or, like I thought they initially were going to do until I actually saw the thing in action, you do a King Ghidorah thing where the heads are controlled by someone in the rafters using piano
Or
wire.
that, yeah.
And I get, like, maybe that is more time consuming and maybe that is more tricky. They
And
probably just didn't have the
probably
time and stuff to do that.
maybe it costs a little bit more, especially
That too.
if you're gonna do that, you're gonna need some sort of separate way to, uh, operate the 2 heads of that, monster as well, and then especially with, the physicality that they use with, Lightning Shark here in this episode and the next episode where he moves around quite a bit, so it probably wouldn't be feasible to do something like that.
Yeah, either that or you direct the suit actor better. And then,
Mhm,
yeah, you still leave the actual arm stationary, which still I would have an issue with. But if you controlled the heads better to act more like heads, I think in a general sense, I would be more um, okay with it. Or, and this isn't necessarily the best solution either, but maybe you make the two heads on either side stationary. And if possible, maybe only have something to where you have a mechanism that controls the opening and closing of the mouth. Again, it's not the best because it still would be very obvious that, they're not moving around while the middle one is. But
mhm.
it's better than, like, when you see it fight Spectreman, that the left and right ones are banging up against Spectreman. I'm like, no, no creature unless you have like crests or horns or something on your head would would do that, and this creature doesn't have any headgear that would be used as a weapon. Now, there's another solution that I just thought of. Maybe what they should have done is create like something as simple as like a couple horns or something for each head too. Then I could go along and be like, okay, like I see, like they're trying to impale him or whatever.
Mhm.
um it's sort of an easy fix. It's just a question of taking an extra moment to think this through or to be a better director and to tell your suit actor, no, you don't do that.
Yeah, it just sort of depends on what was going on behind the scenes, and maybe they sort of talked about it, but then, of course, obviously, there could have been more costs involved with it and with how this series looks and how it's presented in a way. Um, it probably just was not feasible, so that could have been the thing too. So we may we might never know if that's the
Yeah,
case.
that's the only thing I can really criticize this episode and the next episode on. Other than that, we get some real nice miniature work once again here and
And it
some
seems
nice action. It feels definitely more like an urban
yeah, it
area of sorts.
and it seems we get a bit better quality action shots in here. S- and I was just thinking to myself that sort of reminds me a little bit of a Godzilla movie with how some of scenes were shot and with all the explosions and stuff at these oil refineries happening with the monster and it sort of felt like kind of like your Showa era Godzilla or Gamera movie or TV show,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it just story wise, it felt much better written this time around.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I. It's just. I think other than the execution of the dragon, it's a well put together episode. It's very entertaining. The idea of the dragon, despite the 3 million years thing, which, like you said, is really a bunch of baloney, but
Yeah.
you just have to forget it. Um, I enjoy it. It's a I might as well just go on my final thoughts because that's kind of how I'm talking here. I really enjoyed this episode. There was a lot of action and miniatures. It reminded me of some of the Gamera and Godzilla movies of the time. However, the construction of the dragon suit for the suit actor is downright terrible. The actual hands of the dragon flap around when the actor moves but are otherwise stationary. The heads on the left and right sides definitely come off more as hands than heads and are even used as such during the battle with Spectreman. That's the biggest criticism I can give to an otherwise fun episode, and I gave it a B plus also.
Yeah, this one, uh, it just like I said previously, it just feels like the writers are starting to get, you know, some good ground here as far as writing a bit better stories for each episode this time around. And with this episode, I think it shows much more compared to the previous episodes here, and get nice quality shots, and as well as actions with explosions in the oil refineries and the such. Here, a bit better practical effects, and I would say better max screens. Also, although the size differentiation is obviously off. I mean, with these kinds of shows and genre, you're gonna get something like that. So I give it a pass on that one. And also with what Kent has mentioned about with the execution of the lightning shark suit there. Yeah, they should have done something little bit better, but you know, um, with the I would say with uh, sort of the quality of and the presentation um, of the series is, I mean, it probably going to get something like this anyway. So I give it a little bit of a pass, but maybe they should have done something a little bit different with this, with the lightning shark there, as far as the execution of it there. But the battles, practical effects, everything is really good in this episode. So I give episode 32 a B plus. What's that? I can't hear you. Hello?
Oh, some somehow my finger hit the mute. All right, so on to the
Whatever.
final episode that we're discussing for this podcast episode. It's episode. Whoops! Come on. It's titled episode. Oh, it's episode 33, titled SOS: The Undersea Oil Field.
And mine is called Oil Field Emergency.
You want to
Yeah.
give a synopsis?
So basically, episode 33 starts right off the bat with Spectreman and Lightning Shark, where you have Spectreman just diving right at Lightning Shark, where he's in this sort of trap that the military set him up in the previous episode there. And you had Arthur, you know, was trying to rescue some of the military guys there, but for whatever reason, we get into the next scene where he wakes up and he's in the car with both Margaret and Joji, with Joji driving the car. And apparently, he was hit with a rock, but we don't ever get to see that in this episode here. And you have three of them meeting up with the little girl, which we find out her name is Amy in this one. And they participate in this festival that's being held um, by these kids and the adults that we see from earlier, and they dance around and all that. And you had Arthur instructing Joji to find the father of Amy here, so he goes off to drive off to find him, but he runs into Lightning Shark not long after, and then you have which causes the panic and chaos at this festival, people running around and all that stuff. And you had Joji yet again turn into Spectre Man, battling Lightning Shark for the third time here. and you had the same sergeant from the previous episode trying to order uh, Amy's dad, who's this oil refinery um, operator. I think he sort of leads this oil refinery, um, and tries to tell him to evacuate this plant, and he refuses. But yet he tries to stop the monster by causing a chain reaction explosion at this oil field here. And he had a couple of the other GT members going through the oil field, and then they find him, uh, Amy's father, laying unconscious there. And then you had, um, like towards the end of the episode, you have Lightning Shark, uh, you know, after getting damaged by the military and Spectreman, he winds up losing all three of his heads, but yet still alive at this point. And and then to which Spectreman slices up the monster, slices all of its limbs up and everything. And then at the end there, you go back to this same river where you had the kids lighting up the lanterns, releasing them down the stream, and then you had the G team reuniting Amy with her father, and that's pretty much it of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, once again, we, just have another action-packed filled episode. I have to ask though, I must have missed it, or maybe they weren't included in the actual episode. I don't remember seeing the decapitation of the heads of the dragon.
I
Um,
know I've at least have seen where when Spectre Man was fighting Lightning Shark in the ocean there when he was going towards that one um uh shoot, it's the oil refinery place out in the ocean there, or the bay. And all of a sudden I sort of see Spectre Man with one of the heads there that was
mhm.
severed from Lightning Dragon, just throws it away, and that's sort of all I see. And then maybe several scenes or so later, you have Lightning Shark coming out from the ocean with during some of the battles there, and all of a sudden he has no more heads
I
left.
know. I thought maybe I missed something, but I almost wonder if what's the guy's name, Rosenfeld or whoever the guy's name is that had the rights to this back in the day, if he edited like some scenes out or something, because all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, what happened here? Did I miss something? Like all of a sudden this thing has no heads, and I'm going,
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah, so there's probably something that must have happened, so
Yeah, I was disappointed because I'm like, well, that's kind of important because you're destroying the villain of this episode here, and all of a sudden the dragon
you're
shows
not
up and there's no
given
heads.
any, yeah, any sort of explanation or context with what
Yeah.
exactly happened. You only just see it once with one of the heads, that's about it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to condemn the episode for this because, like I said, it's possible that the American dude who had the license to this maybe cut out some footage. So I'm not going to put this on the people who actually actually constructed the episode and all that.
Mhm.
But that was the most disappointing aspect. Otherwise, I mean,
It just
the
felt like
only
this episode got really better.
it
I think
was
the
really really
progression of
good.
each of the episodes got really better this time around.
Yeah, and I found it funny though at the end they try to do this emotional slow-mo deal of Amy like running up to her dad, and I'm going, you didn't earn that. You did not earn that. But I understand why you're doing it, but you didn't earn that. But otherwise it was a very I mean, I really have nothing else to say about this episode. It was very good.
Probably one of the best written episodes in this series so far.
It was very fun, very kaiju-esque. If you're looking for
Mhm.
kaiju action and all that, it's here. If you're looking for miniatures, they're here. Explosions, they're here. Um, a suit being on fire for a few moments, that's here. You know, I mean, it's well done. I mean, again, it's got some of the limitations of a TV show, but by and large, it's a pretty good contender for like the Gamera and Godzilla films of the same period. So
Mhm.
I have nothing else to really say other than this is a really good episode and it's entertaining. It's definitely one of the better ones of the series we've seen
Yeah,
so far.
and whoever was the director of both of these episodes here, for this series, you should probably keep them on board for the for the remainder of the series at this point, because you're,
Knowing Spectreman, they probably
because I
don't.
mean you're already halfway through, so make the second half much better compared to the first half.
I could
Sort
see
sort of like
them.
sort of like Iron King in a way. Like the first handful of episodes, they're just quite weren't quite there, but then soon after you get past one of a handful of episodes, things get much better after that.
Well, that's one of those. It's not like Ultra 7, though, where it's pretty shoddy the entire way through. It's like a lot of TV shows. And we've talked about this before where, yeah, the first handful of episodes are always a little rough, but once you kind of figure out what it is you're doing,
Hmm.
it's better from that point forward. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm ready to go into my final thoughts here and rating.
Go right ahead.
The action and fun miniature work continues from the previous episode. When the show decides to become more action packed with even a few more miniatures than it typically does, the episodes become a lot more entertaining. I am convinced some shots were cut out of the dragon getting its heads cut off because I blinked and all of a sudden its heads were missing. This was another fun episode and a great way to enter the second half of the Spectre Man series. By the way, where is the supervisor? And I gave it an A. I wanted to put that
Yeah,
in there because I've noticed, wait a minute, we haven't seen this guy in a while.
well, a couple episodes ago he was there, but he was just sort of by himself. I'm assuming that there are some things behind the scenes that we don't know. Maybe he has some things happening. Maybe he's on another show during that time too, so he's probably going back and forth with it. Who knows?
They need to do a spin-off because I'm sure he was dealing drugs.
Yeah. But yeah, as stated previously, there's really not much to add with this episode simply because it's written much better compared to a lot of the other episodes. Just recently, it seems like a few episodes here have been written really well, and of course, it's has its unique goofiness to it compared to other kaiju and tokusatsu TV shows and films of this time period here, and it's directed much better this time around and get quality shots as well as practical and visual effects here. So with episode 33, I give this an A minus or an A.
Give this a minus. I give this a negative. I love it, so I give it a minus. All right, so thank you so much for joining us for episodes 31 through 33, the discussion of Spectreman series. That sounded really awful, and yet I'm not going to redo it because I can't. I'm live. So um, join us next week. It is very likely that we're actually going to be potentially starting up at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time just because of personal things on this end that will kind of delay things maybe about a half hour. So I think moving forward, that's what we're going to do. So it'll be 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, 12:30 Central Standard Time, moving forward for many Sundays to come. And we will continue our discussion of Spectre Man. Hopefully, you're not sick and tired of this, and hopefully, this will continue in a direction that is very enjoyable.
And as always, if you're watching us from whatever platform, if you see a subscribe button down below or above, make sure to hit that as well as smash the like button and leave your comments down below. And you can find everything Daikaiju Network all in one place at our link tree page right there on your screen /Daikaiju Network. We're available on video platforms such as YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Facebook, and as well as X, formerly known as Twitter. And we're also available on audio platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and as well as TuneIn. And you can find both video and audio versions of our episodes for our own website there at daikaijunetwork.com.
And with that, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
All right. We'll see you guys next Sunday.